Within this lesson, we're going to run through a little bit more about the JavaScript and how to use it, so that you don't necessarily need to be to know JavaScript in order to add this to your website. So we're going to be running through a little bit by bit about the code. If you are familiar with JavaScript, you might want to skip this and move on to the next lessons that are more pertaining to social sharing. So we're going to be walking through how to set up the metadata, how to do different types of social sharing as well. So basically within the code here, so I'm using Chrome, I've got the console open here on the right. To open up the console, you could just hit Control-Shift-I, or you could just hit Inspect Element. That opens up this console here, and all I'm doing is I'm going to the console window, and from there I'm able to see that there, and that's how I'm passing along data. And all I'm doing within JavaScript is doing console log, and that's outputting that information into the console. So just going through reviewing the code again very quickly. So we don't have a lot of metadata here because this is just an example site. We do have that Facebook root, so this is for the Facebook SDK. So all of this stuff, and this is Facebook SDK. And then we've just got some HTML here where we're going to be placing in some content for question. I've got my input type, I've got my submit here, so maybe I can just change that to a div so it goes on to the next line. So again, it doesn't really matter what you're using, you could just use a button. This was just for demonstration purposes, and the real purpose of this lesson is going to be this part of the code where we've got this social sharing. And then below that we've just got an end game, we're doing display none. So this is just a message that we're going to display at the end of the game. So that's it for the HTML code. And again, this is the code that you might want to look at if you are looking at the HTML. So we're just going to put social sharing code, just to be able to distinguish it so that we know that this is the beginning of it. And then also down here in the JavaScript, so again, this is towards the gameplay. So again, this is the only part that's crucial here, so again I'll put it here at the top, and maybe I'll just do a start there, and then I'll do another one where I do an end, and I'll just take another end there, so just do a social sharing code end. So again, this is all that you're going to have to include to do that social sharing, but of course you're going to have to customize the messages. So going through here, we're just setting some variables here for the game, getting that element by ID, so getting that question so we can output content into there. Here we're just getting, we're adding an event listener, so when this gets clicked, that we're able to run this function, this check answer function, which is just down here. And then here again we're setting up variables, so maybe we'll just move that up here to the top. And then here we're just doing console logs, so we're outputting that quiz information, just to make sure that we do have that information in there correctly, so I can comment that out. And so this is the check answer function, and this again, this is more pertaining to the gameplay. So if game is playing, so if this value is true, then we're going to go ahead and it's going to meet this condition. So we're going to be able to get the answer that's been posted within this field, and we're going to check that answer value with the question number value, so this value here, and if it matches then our score just increases, and here we're just console logging out that score again, and we're increasing the question number, so we know that once it's been answered, once we're doing a check of an answer, so regardless if it's right or wrong, we're going to increment the number of questions or the question value. And then here we're just doing, we're checking to see if the game is over. If it's over, we're doing console log game over. We're changing that output, and we're changing game playing to false. So we're no longer going to meet that condition. And then if it's not an end of the game, we're going to set quiz and to this new question number. Set quiz function is over here. so it's probably not even entirely necessary to pass over this question number, but we're just going to leave that in there for now. So again, we're checking to see if the gameplay is happening, and if it is, then we're going to output inner HTML quiz depending on question number, question value, again from this data here. So we're going to get that value, place it within our inner HTML of output. And here we're just doing an initialization of a setting of the quiz. And then here is some more information here for the social sharing. So I'm just going to copy this out and do social sharing start. And then again, this is going to be the social sharing end. So again, the rest of the content was just for the game. And going back to these functions, so these functions both are essentially just called when you click this button. And again, you could add event listeners, a whole bunch of different ways to do this. If you're using jQuery, it's quite a bit simpler as well. So we're just going out and we're calling out these functions, and we're running this Facebook UI, which is actually set when we do that Facebook initialization. So then we can call into that UI. All we have to do is to set method feed. Here we can set a link. So I think I'm just setting a link to where the game is. Picture, so we got an option for an image. We can put a name, title, caption, description, and all of this is just values that are being pulled from the game. So this was just stuff that we had already set as variables. And then again, the same thing for Twitter. Twitter function is being called when this gets clicked. And description, I've scored, and score, total questions, share URL, and all it's doing here, it's just a JavaScript function, window open, opening to this URL. So we could just as easily copy and paste this in and just place that in there, and it could save us some content there. And the same thing with the description, we could put that in there as well. But we're just going to keep it separate so it's a little bit more readable. And then this is just some default window attributes that we're setting, and that's allowing us to call and open up the window. So that's it for the code, going over the review of the game and how to implement social sharing.